Money touches every aspect of our life, yet most people never examine the deep emotional wounds that shape their financial behavior. Now, you might wonder why you freeze when making financial decisions, or why you feel almost physically sick when checking your bank balance. Perhaps you sabotage your success just as things are going well, or find yourself in repeated cycles of financial boom and bust. These patterns are not signs of weakness. They're symptoms of your money trauma or beliefs. Emotional wounds, perhaps, and beliefs that were created by past experiences that continue to influence your financial choices long after the original events have passed. Now, money trauma or money limiting beliefs affects people from all backgrounds and income levels. The successful executive who hoards money despite earning six figures carries trauma or beliefs just as surely as a person who can't hold on to any savings. What makes your money beliefs particularly important is how it operates below the conscious awareness. Your rational mind might understand that you need to budget or invest for the future, but your belief system or even nervous system sees financial planning as a threat. It triggers a fight or flight response that makes calm, logical thinking nearly impossible. Now, when you understand money beliefs, it requires recognizing that money is never just about money. It represents safety, power, love, control, freedom, and worth in ways that often trace back to your earliest experiences. But here's a hopeful truth. Trauma can be healed and limiting beliefs can be shifted. Your nervous system can learn to feel safe around your financial decisions. It's about understanding the deep emotional and psychological patterns that drive your financial behavior, then gently rewiring those patterns through different approaches such as hypnosis and visualization. But we'll talk more about that. So today's presentation is understanding money trauma's hidden impact. Let's dive in. So, childhood money messages that shape us. Now, we've all heard different stories from our parents, our grandparents, even our teachers. The foundation of your adult relationship with money was laid before you could even understand what money was. Between birth and the age of 7, your developing brain absorbed thousands of messages about money, about safety and survival that continue to influence your financial behavior today. Growing up with financial insecurity can create deep nervous system activation around money. Children who experience poverty, even if it was temporarily, often develop this hypervigilance around financial resources, always worried that things are going to kind of just go like that. Fear of scarcity. You may have watched your parents kind of arguing around bills or felt the tension when money was discussed. These experiences teach your nervous system that financial scarcity equals danger. Now, as an adult, this can manifest as hoarding behaviors, difficulty spending money on yourself, or anxiety about financial security. Some families alternate between periods of abundance and scarcity, creating a different but equally challenging. Perhaps your parents or your parent was a salesperson with irregular commissions or income, an entrepreneur with unpredictable income, or someone who struggled with addiction that also affected family finances. Now, children in these environments can learn that money comes and goes unpredictable. This can create adult patterns of boom and bust cycles where you unconsciously sabotage financial stability because unpredictability feels more familiar than security. Can you start to see how these patterns can really affect your financial decisions? So in some families, money becomes entangled with expressions of love and affection. Parents might shower children with gifts when they're feeling guilty about working long hours, or use money to reward good behavior and withdraw it when disappointed. Children learn that their worth is tied to their financial value to others. Adults with this programming often struggle with earning what they're worth. They may feel guilty charging for their services or even use money to try to buy love and approval for others. So the next one, and I'm sure some of you have heard this, money is the root of all evil. Now, families that kind of almost demonize wealth or successful people create their own form of financial trauma. Children hear messages like, money doesn't buy happiness, rich people are greedy, or we may not have much, but we have our integrity. Can you see how, as children, we can absorb these messages and start to almost create limiting beliefs? Now, while these messages often come from places of hurt or defensive pride, they create deep conflicts about financial success. Adults with this programming might sabotage their earning potentials, feel guilty about wanting financial security, which again can be really common. So some children become responsible for family finances far too early, whether through necessity or inappropriate family dynamics. They might manage household budgets, worry about bills, or even feel responsible for their family's financial well-being. This responsibility that can happen for such a young person can create a nervous system that associates money with overwhelming burden and responsibility. Adults with this pattern often struggle to enjoy money or feel deserving of this financial security. Now, in families where money is never discussed or is surrounded by secrecy and shame, children develop anxiety and confusion about wealth and finances. They might grow up with no understanding of how money works, but with a deep sense that it's maybe dangerous or even shameful to talk about. Again, can you see how powerful this can be? So, understanding these childhood money messages is the first step. Now, it's not about blaming anybody else. It's not about kind of dwelling on past hurts or childhood. Absolutely not. Most parents are doing their best with the tools and awareness they have. The goal is to develop conscious awareness of the patterns that no longer serve you so you can choose more intentional responses to your financial situations. So let's look at the cost of financial and emotional wounds. Now, research reveals the staggering impact that unhealed money trauma has on both individual well-being and even broader society. Financial stress triggers or can trigger the same psychological responses as physical threats, flooding your system with stress hormones that were designed for short-term survival situations. And research shows that financial worries are linked to increased rates of high blood pressure and even diabetes and immune function. Now, a study by the American Psychological Association found that money is a top source of stress for 64% of adults. Now, this could be increased because of obviously inflation and increases in living costs. Now, chronic financial stress keeps your nervous system in a constant state of activation, which over time leads to what researchers call allostatic load. It is that wear and tear on your body from chronic stress exposure. And the mental health connection, let's talk about that now. And so financial trauma or limiting beliefs significantly increase or can increase the risk of stress and depression and anxiety. Now, the shame and secrecy surrounding money problems often prevent people from seeking help. It can create a feeling of isolation that compounds mental health challenges. Please know that there is support out there. If you're feeling financial stress or pressure, there is support out there for you. Now, it can also affect relationships. Money disagreements are the second leading cause of divorce, apparently. But the real issue often isn't the money itself, it's the unhealed trauma that creates conflict around financial decisions. So when partners or spouses have different money traumas or different beliefs, their nervous system can trigger each other in a way that makes rational financial conversations nearly impossible. Communication is key here. So financial trauma can also affect parenting. As parents unconsciously pass their money wounds to their children, through both direct messages and emotional reactions to financial situations. It's really important to have the self-awareness as to what's going on. Now, again, the career and earning impact, how it can affect your trading. Unhealed money trauma significantly limits earning potential and career satisfaction. People with financial trauma might undervalue their work, struggle to negotiate salaries, avoid leadership roles that come with financial responsibility, or sabotage success when it starts to feel unfamiliar. So another one is, the decision-making paralysis. Financial trauma can really affect good cognitive function and decision-making around money. When your nervous system perceives financial threat, it prioritizes survival responses over rational thinking. So next we're going to talk about identifying your money trauma triggers. You may want to take notes here. So, identifying your money trauma triggers. Healing begins with awareness, and awareness begins with learning to recognize how money trauma shows up in your daily life. So, physical signs of money trauma activation. Your body always knows when you're triggered, even when your mind hasn't caught up yet. Common physical signs can include tightness of chest or even difficulty breathing when looking at bills or bank statements. Your heart might race when making financial decisions or when money topics come up in conversations. Some people might notice changes in their sleep patterns around financial stress, either sleeping too much to escape or laying awake worrying about money. Money trauma creates predictable emotional responses that can feel overwhelming and out of proportion to the actual situation. Shame is perhaps the most common emotion associated with money trauma, showing up as embarrassment about your financial situation, guilt about spending money on yourself, or feeling like your financial struggles reflect personal failure. Anxiety and panic are common responses too, with worry about financial security. It can really consume mental energy, even when you're not actively dealing with money matters. So it can also affect behaviors. Now, money trauma often drives compulsive behavior that provide temporary relief but create longer-term problems. Overspending might serve as a way to self-soothe or prove your worth, while extreme being frugal might be an attempt to control anxiety through restriction. Avoidance is another common pattern, whether it's avoiding looking at bills, postponing financial planning, or refusing to discuss money with partners or family members. So, the way you think about money often reflects underlying trauma patterns and limiting beliefs. All or nothing thinking around finances, believing you're either rich or poor with no middle ground, indicates trauma-based cognitive distortion. Catastrophic thinking, where every financial setback feels like the end of the world, shows how trauma amplifies threat perception. Mind reading, where you assume others judge you based on your financial situation, reflects internalized shame and fear. So can you see how this works? Understanding how your brain processes financial information and stores traumatic memories provides the foundation for effective healing here. Now, neuroscience reveals that money trauma lives in the nervous system, not just your thoughts, which is why intellectual understanding alone rarely creates lasting change. When you experience a financial threat or distress, your brain's alarm system, the amygdala, triggers survival responses before your rational thinking brain can evaluate the actual level of danger. So these survival responses, unlike memories that you can recall and examine consciously, these implicit memories show up as bodily sensations, emotions, and automatic reactions that feel like they're happening in the present moment. This is why checking your bank balance can trigger the same fight or flight response you experienced as a child when your parents argued about money. So the brain's capacity for neuroplasticity. Let's talk about this now. Its ability to form new neural pathways throughout your lifetime provides the biological foundation for healing money trauma. Every time you have a new experience that contradicts your trauma-based expectations, you're creating opportunities for your brain to update its financial safety programming. However, changing deeply ingrained patterns requires consistent, repeated experiences of financial safety and competence over time. Healing happens through accumulating small, manageable experiences of financial empowerment that gradually teach your nervous system that money can be safe. So let's look at some therapeutic approaches to money recovery, we'll call it. Healing money trauma requires approaches that address both the psychological and physiological aspects of financial wounds. Traditional talk therapy alone is very, very helpful, but sometimes it's often insufficient because trauma lives in the body and nervous system, not just in thoughts and beliefs. So these are some suggestions, and if you do seek any of these therapies, it's always important to research the therapy and also the practitioner. So, somatic therapies. Now, somatic therapies work directly with the body's wisdom to heal trauma responses. These approaches recognize that your body holds memories of financial safety and threat, and that healing happens through changing these embodied patterns. Somatic financial therapy helps you notice, or can help you notice, how different financial situations affect your breathing, your muscle tension, heart rate, and overall sense of groundedness. When you develop body awareness during these financial activities, you can catch trauma responses early and implement regulation strategies before they overwhelm your system. Now, another great therapy is EMDR. This is generally used for trauma like PTSD. However, always remember, again, if you are seeking any of these therapies, to do your research and to look into the practitioner as well. So EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It is remarkable in effectiveness in treating various forms of trauma, including financial trauma. A lot of people in the military who have suffered from PTSD have had EMDR, and the results are really good and can be fast. So sometimes during EMDR sessions, focusing on money trauma, you might process memories of financial insecurity in childhood, or experiences of financial shame and humiliation. So the bilateral stimulation used in EMDR helps integrate these memories so they no longer trigger overwhelming emotional and physical responses in present day financial situations. Another one is IFS, which is internal family systems and money parts. Now, I personally have received many years ago, I worked with somebody who specialized in IFS, and for me it was profound and worked really well. But again, you need to look into the research yourself for all of these. So IFS, internal family systems therapy, recognizes that we all have different parts of ourselves that hold different beliefs and feelings about everything, including money. You might have a spender part that uses money for emotional calm, a hoarder part that tries to create safety through accumulation. IFS can help you develop a conscious, compassionate relationship with these different parts rather than being controlled by them. Now, the last one is mindfulness or mindfulness interventions. Now, mindfulness practice can really help create space between financial triggers and automatic reactions, like meditation, mindfulness, breathwork. This allows for more conscious responses. Mindful money practices might include eating meditation with food you've purchased, walking meditation while window shopping, or breathing practices before making financial decisions. Now, the goal is about learning to develop a different relationship with yourself and your behaviors. Once you can get into a space where you're able to feel your emotions, be self-aware of your decision making, you're able to make a conscious effort to start to shift these thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Healing money trauma means different things to different people. For some, it's having enough savings to feel secure. For others, It's the ability to be generous with loved ones or to pursue meaningful work regardless of income. True financial freedom often involves feeling peaceful about money, regardless of your bank balance. The journey begins with self-compassion and recognition that your current financial situation challenges are understandable responses to past experiences. Healing happens gradually through small, consistent choices that honor both your practical needs and your emotional well-being. Some days will feel like significant progress, while others might feel like setbacks. This is normal and expected in any healing process, and trust me, I've been there. What matters is your commitment to continuing the journey with patience and kindness towards yourself. It's a journey. Now, remember that seeking support is a sign of strength, not weakness. Whether it's through therapy, support groups, or trusted friends. Your money trauma developed as an adaptive response to difficult circumstances. These patterns served important protective functions, even if they no longer serve you in your current situation. The journey from financial trauma to financial freedom is ultimately a journey towards greater self-awareness and self-compassion. As you heal your relationship with yourself and money, you often discover that you're also healing your relationship to those around you. You're healing your sense of worth, your capacity for creating the life you truly want. Your commitment to financial healing contributes to breaking cycles of money trauma that may have affected your family for generations. The path forward is unique for each person, but the destination is the same, a life where money serves as a tool for expressing your values and creating the experiences that matter most to you. The transformation is possible for everyone willing to approach their trauma or money trauma with courage, patience, and compassion. It is everyone's birthright to be financially secure. I wish you well on your journey to healing. Until next time, thank you.